Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Lion's Den After Dark. I'm your host, Lauren Lyons. And today we're back here recapping a scripted television show, How to Die Alone, by Natasha Rotwell. Y'all, this show is so amazing that I had to just come and be like, let's do a recap. There was so much to unpack that I feel like this is just the perfect comedy and show we haven't had in a long time. So, we got to get into it. We got to share our thoughts and everything. But before we get started, you guys know there's a couple of house den rules here at the After Dark. Of course, because this is scripted, it's not reality. So, you guys know everything we talk about is literally within the framework of the TV show. But while you watch, make sure you get your cups ready and sip while we do this recap. I'm so excited to show you guys my new cup. It's brats, y'all. I'm a brat girl. I am a brat girl. So I'm super excited about this cup. But anyway, now that we've gotten all that out the way, let's get into it. So, on this episode, we're just going to recap episodes 1 through 4, and then we'll come back later and do, I believe, 4 through 6, perhaps. Yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head how many episodes there are, but we're going to split it up and just discuss all the episodes. Y'all need to check it out if you haven't. We need to get this girl a season 2. Like, this is an amazing, beautiful story. And it's a comedy as well, but it's so authentically told. It like we haven't had this type of just real storytelling in a while. So yeah. So, episode 1, we are introduced to Natasha's character, who she is playing the lead role as Melissa, who's a 35-year-old single woman who works at the JFK airport. So, it starts off where it's her birthday and she's going to work. So it kind of goes through, how her day usually is, helping other people, very personable, relatable. And then we get a scene where her and her best friend Roy, which we'll learn more about Roy later. They find out that Lizzo is at the airport. So they're like rushing to try to get to Lizzo, and then she ends up like destroying this massive display in the airport, which was quite hilarious to see. But we see that happen, and I do hope that I'm not getting episodes mixed up, but yes. No, that happens. Episode 1. Yes. On this same day though, and this is where we get into the drama a little bit. She gets a wedding invitation from one of her coworkers and Alex, where he's getting married in Maui, Hawaii. And it's like, okay, it kind of made her get her feelings a little bit. And so we don't know until later as to why she was kind of like eerie, like off-putting about that. But she does. She gets it. She's 35. So she's just kind of like, you know what, Roy? I just want to chill at the house. It's my birthday, but let's go to my favorite Thai spot and let's just, have a day in just to celebrate my birthday. Well, Roy is like, oh, I can't. My dad wants me to go to this like donor thing, and I'm not going to be able to go and celebrate, but I'll make it up to you. And so Mel, which is the nickname they give her, knows her friend. And it's like, please don't tell me you're ditching me. Like, this is my birthday. I hope you're not having, one of those hookups and you're abandoning me on my birthday. He's like, no, I'm not. So what we come to find out is there is a frequent flyer name. I believe his name was Ben, but anyway, he was beautiful. He came back to the airport earlier that day, and Roy finally spoke to him, and turns out those were his actual plans. So he lied to Mel and pretty much skipped out on her birthday plans to go with Ben. Now, I want to know how did y'all feel about that? Cuz like I feel like as a friend that is obviously not cool. Like especially because it was her birthday. Like I get it. You maybe don't have to eat, stay in your house all the time and only hang out in that way. I totally understand that. But it's her birthday. Like you can sacrifice for your friend, especially on a day that is so important. And to lie and just not want to be with her was very selfish. It was, which again, there's going to be more about Roy as we get into the other episodes. But yeah, like I felt like, okay, so now we're getting some insight onto how Roy can be, where he's there, but is he really there? Those sometimey friends that we have, that's what the vibes were giving. But after that, Mel is like, well, I'm gonna go do something that makes me happy. I'm gonna go to the furniture store. I can't afford it, but it's my birthday. I'm gonna give myself something nice. So she gets this chest that she has to build. Um, and she gets to her house, she goes and she gets her Thai food, and she was like, all right, it says, I'm gonna build this on my own. She was Barbara the Builder, child. Just building away. She had it too. She was just building. So she finishes it. She's like, "Oh my god, I did it." She's eating her crab rangoon, and then boom, the chest falls on her. Next thing you know, she's woken up in the hospital. She stopped breathing. I believe was it 3 minutes, 3 or 5 minutes, which for her to be woke, like waking up and just fully speaking and being not breathing that long is crazy. But hey, this is TV, so she wakes up. And they were like, she's like, "What happened?" They were like, "Yeah, you stopped breathing for a while, a minute." And so she just kind of from this moment really has like an awakening, like, "Oh my god, I almost died." And so then we start to see where she it scares her, that like on her birthday she was about to die. And ironically eating her favorite food. And so, then to add to it, the nurse and the doctor are like, okay, you need to call your next of kin. So she, instead of deciding to call family, she calls Roy. He sends her to voicemail because he's busy with his friend. Then, she doesn't want to call her mom, which we'll get in, like you'll find out a little bit later in the episodes why their relationship is a little bit complicated. She texts all her other friends, they don't answer, and then which it later results in her calling her brother, which again, like that story will develop as well. But it just really showed her in that moment that like, wow, I'm 35, I'm single, she's scared to fly. Forgot to mention that earlier. She's terrified of flying, even though she works at the airport. But she hasn't really been living her life. Like for her birthday, she's at home eating Thai, and she hasn't traveled anywhere. So she kind of has this aha moment while also in the hospital, while also talking to an older woman who was sitting next to her, and she shares her story about how like she lived and she decided not to allow fear to move her life, and she then created these experiences and and did all these amazing things. And then in the middle of their conversation, the older lady passes away, and by herself, no family around. So it scares Mel. It terrifies her. We do get a comical moment where like Mel's like, oh, okay, I need to pay my respects because you don't know what you said just impacted me on your way to go see Glory. You impacted me. And so she was like, I at least need to pay my respects, and then ends up throwing up on the lady, probably with all of the trauma, and she shouldn't have been up. and then you just see a dead body. So that was wild, but so she does that, and that happens. So it's a crazy, crazy moment, but it was one of the first things that made her kind of wake up and realize, man, life is not promised, and I need to do something different with my life so that it can be meaningful. Because if I don't, I can end up alone like her, but at least she had some life. I don't have anything. So it could be worse, you know? So we get that scene that happens, and then afterwards we see that her brother comes and picks her up, and he was just completely like emotionless to the fact that like she was in the hospital and stopped breathing. Like he didn't care. And I was like, this is very interesting. We do get a little bit of an Easter egg when it comes to um his wedding ring, where you see him putting it back on, so you can tell that there probably will be something around that coming up in the next episodes. But yeah, he didn't care. He was just completely like, whatever. Um, Here you are again doing something to get yourself in trouble, and here I am here rescuing you. Like I'm tired doing that you know, you're an adult, and here I am, you know, kind of thing. So, yeah, we know that there is a lot of tension there. And so, because she ends up getting out the car and heading to a local bar where she meets a local bartender and just goes off, like just has a moment. And it's so interesting because and what I like about the story it is realistic in that way, is that like bartenders do serve as therapists too. They get all the information, like people's dramas, people's issues. And yeah, she let her know everything. And I really was like, is this gonna be like a moment where she's just like, do you need me to call some, like, you need an Uber? But no, the bartender was super sincere. She was there. She gave her information. She was like, if you need anything, I'm here. And that was really cool. Like it was a refreshing perspective to see someone genuinely make sure someone's okay. Um and making sure mentally Mel was good. And so I thought that was a beautiful moment. Um from while she's sitting there, she realizes that the hospital swapped their information and gave her her personal items of the older lady. So she's like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do? I got to go get my stuff." But it makes her curious cuz again, like this lady's impact sits with Mel. So she's like, "I just want to see her life. I just want to go by her apartment, see what she's got." Which, excuse me, is crazy. Yeah, like because you're assuming that she's a John Doe type of situation, and it's like she very well could have family pop up, like, and very well, you know, someone could be asking about her and just show up at her apartment, or somebody lived there with her, you know, like you just met this lady for like 5 minutes. But okay, girl. So she walks in there and she finds a dog, a really cute, adorable dog. I think his name was Bubba, which, yeah, a lot, I feel like a lot of people's dogs names are Bubba, but it was like cute dog. And she saw more of this lady's life and how she lived and explored things. And she decides, like, I'm gonna take care of this dog because, oh, obviously, I mean, he left here abandoned. And it also, I think, represents giving her something to take care of. Like, you're taking care of this dog, now you need to take care of yourself. And this moment and experience kind of gave her that green light to take care of herself and make that change. So she takes the dog, she goes back home, and she is reflecting about the wedding invitation that she got, which, backtracking a little bit, and what we've come to find out is with the wedding invitation with her coworker Alex, turns out her and Mr. Alex used to date Yeah, she used to date that yummy man. And they broke it off. We don't know at this point, we don't know what happened. We don't know why, but they broke it off and now he got engaged and he didn't invite her to the wedding. And we also find out that like he works at the airport, if I didn't make that clear earlier. So it's like you're seeing your ex at work every day. That's why you don't maybe have some separation. But I get it. I get it. I get it. So she decides, you know what? Because I'm now ready to actually live, I'm gonna do something bold. I'm gonna step out on fear and faith. Like I'm gonna step out, even though I'm scared, and I'm gonna go to his wedding. And I could definitely tell this was more than just like going to get see him get married, but just in the act of getting on a plane was big for her. So she said, "I'm gonna make this life changing decision, and I'm gonna get on this plane." Well, girl ain't got no money. She broke. She's brokey, and she's like, "Oh crap. Okay, well, how we gonna start our life? And we don't have no money." And she does something that we know for sure is gonna come back and bite her in the behind, and takes the dead lady's credit card and uses it to pay for her plane ticket. So it's like, oh, interesting. And that's what made it overall very interesting because there's so many conflicts that you see in episode 1 and you're like, wow, okay, there's a lot that we could really get into with this story while it's also a comedy that makes it really interesting because girl, you going to jail. Like you're going to jail. How are you getting out of this? This is fraud, you know? But then like there's also so many other things going on as well. So I was, yeah, hooked, sold. Okay. So that was episode 1. Excuse me. So we get to episode 2 where Mel wakes up and it's this really fun type of montage where she's on them good drugs, girl, the real good drugs. And she's feeling good. She pop locking and dropping and everything and moving and shaking. And I was like, okay, girl, you better move. And it shows like as time moves on, how them drugs are slowly coming out of her system to the point where it's like it just hits her like a ton of bricks. Like, oh God, I'm in pain. So she asked Alex, which we find Alex was a manager. So you was sleeping with the boss. I see you. I see you. Okay. She was sleeping with the boss. And so she asked him, "Hey, can I work in the office today? I'm in pain." There was, I think, a rumor that she got jumped or something, and she was like, "Where did that even come from? Why would I have gotten jumped?" What, you know. But something about that was a rumor of what her injuries were. But so she switched the day with Patty. Child, Patty is that coworker who can't find their own business. Like, ugh, Patty just she mad at the world. She don't like special privileges. She's one of those, I'm working hard. You need to respect it. And she's a snitch. She's a snitch. She don't mind her business. Yeah. Has a good heart, but she nosy. So that's Patty. So Patty, she and her feelings, she mad. She faking it. This is not, she don't need to be back here. She just want to be, she playing. Okay. Um so that happens. We of course we get like awkward moments between her and Alex where you're like, will they, won't they type of thing. Like there's still tension and feelings, and it's just like, okay, was why? Like y'all were both two single individuals. What's going on? But they have their moment, and then Mel, she just can't get past the pain. So she's like, there's gotta be something I could do. Like, we're at the airport. There's gotta be something. Y'all always taking people's stuff, TSA, taking people's stuff and hiding it away. I know y'all got a stash somewhere. So she goes, really first, she goes to the massage chair because her arm is hurting her. And that's where Roy comes and meets her and apologizes and gets like a, I forgot what he gave her. He gave her something from the airport store, which, fun fact, sidebar, because I forgot to mention it. Roy is rich. He's here because I think he had like a case, like something happened. I don't know if it was like he a judge order or he's broke, like his parents cut him off, so he now has to have a job. I think it's the latter. But he's rich. So he goes and gets Mel something from the gift shop. He apologizes. He's like, "Oh my god, I didn't know something was wrong. Like the other coworkers are telling me that something happened. What happened?" And she was like, "Yeah, I almost died. I called you, you didn't pick up." And he was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, but I have to be honest with you. I absolutely did ditch to go sleep with Vacation Bay." Honestly, she was nice. Cause I'm really big on like people make time for what they want and how I want to be treated. Like how I treat you is how I want to be treated. And to find out that like you ditched again an important day for a man, like someone else to sleep with somebody else, she let him off a little easy. She did. She really did. She passed it like, oh, it's fine. A little bit. No. But you could tell there's a little bit resent in that relationship. We're starting to see it a little bit, and this is really one of those moments where you start to see that in their relationship. Um, but then she's like, "I'm just so much in pain," and the pharmacist, they just told me that they won't can't give me a prescription because I don't, because I don't have a doctor, and it was a very serious medication that she was taking. And so he's like, well, he's the one that came up with, we're in the airport. There's a stash, which yeah, there is a stash. Okay. All that stuff. I wonder what they do for real. Anyway. So he's like, yeah, let's go find you some drugs. And so it starts off this journey of them trying to find drugs. So they go down to the under the airport area and first go to the place um where different items are taken and confiscated from guests. And so she finds this like $500 ham and was like, "Can I have this ham?" He was like, "Yeah, girl, it was your birthday. Do it." So she grabs it or whatever. And this person, one of the security guards, which we'll find out about later, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't remember his name. He was like, "Yeah, no, the drugs aren't here. They're taken somewhere else." But I'm sure if you go and ask the employees that are out, what is it called? Like by the airplanes. I don't remember the name of what it's called. But anyway, if you go out there, ask them because they see everything and they should be able to help you. So this is where we meet her other designated co-workers. And so their names are Terrence. Let me see. Terrence, Deshaun, and Sean. So Deshaun and Sean are the ones that wear the green vest at an airport, who are directing the planes, and as well as Terrence. Terrence does a little bit of that as well. So they always like kind of hang out and do breaks out there because Mel does smoke. So they're like, "Hey, Mel, what's going on?" And she's like, "I need drugs." And they were like, we don't know about anything of that, but we could take you to a man who does." So they go to this man who is known as like the Falcon person, and because they say that him and his Falcon, he knows everything that goes on in the airport. So you should go talk to him. He could tell you where it is, so you can get what you need. And so they go to him, and he obviously doesn't know, but um, he gives her again another nugget of wisdom about really just being free, not holding back, and um doing things to intentionally take off with life, right? Like, okay, now you've made this decision that you no longer want to be live in fear. So what are the next steps to do that? Because it can be so easy and comfortable, especially when life is wearing your behind out, and her life was wearing her behind out, to take off those brakes and fly. And so, it made her reflect. She had like a aha epiphany moment. And she was like, all right, thanks. Yeah, great. And so I thought that was really beautiful. He four forces, yeah, lift, thrust, weight, and drag. Um how and so he explains how lift and thrust are obvious as they propel you upward and forward, but they need the opposing forces of gravity to gain momentum. And yeah, so sometimes again, we do things to hold us back. When we said we're ready to go, we need to go and let go of those things that are holding us back. So she never finds the pills, but as her and Roy are reflecting today, mind you, she hasn't stayed inside at all to work. She hasn't been in the office, and she's been running from what's the girl name? Jesus, Patty. She been running for Patty all darn day. So, but they're chilling outside as planes take off, and this is where she tells Roy, like, "Hey, I'm going to the wedding." He was like, "What? You're going? Oh my god, I didn't think you were going to do that. But like, great. I'm happy for you, that you're wanting to do this." So he seems very supportive, right? In her making that decision, and he's for it. Um so then while they're talking, they're interrupted, and the boss of the airport calls them. So they're like, "Uh-oh, we gonna get it." Well, comes to find out that the president of JFK is, you've guessed it, Roy's dad. So that was like, oh, because Roy's dad is white and Roy is not white. He's Asian, but he was adopted, I think. Yes, he was adopted. So you could already feel the tension when they walk in, like, "Ugh, yes, dad." And so they thought it was because they were like the 6 or $500 ham went missing, that was why he was calling them. But the conversation then redirects to Mel, and he's like, "Hey, Mel, you've been here for a long time. You have a stellar resume. You're here every day. You're on time. Like, you're a good employee. Have you decided to do our high flyer program? I think that's what it's called. I think it's called the high flyer program, essentially, which is a management program." She was like, "No, I haven't. I wasn't gonna. No, I don't know anything about it." And so it really does. It's so interesting because that's kind of how what happens in life is like, you know, when it's time to change and move, God has a very funny way of being like, "All right, here's the opportunity, time for you to move." And because of fear, she was really like pushing back. "No, I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. I don't." And he was like, No, you need to. The president is telling you you are qualified to do this job, and you're really him and hawing. And you broke, girl. Get with the program." So she takes it in. She goes back to her job, which again, I don't she been chilling all day. And this is where Alex is like, "Here, well, the president called me and he wants you to apply." Which again is amazing that like he sees your worth to make you apply for promotion in your life. Crazy. And what we do know with earlier in the episode, Patty wanted to apply and he wrote a letter of recommendation. But now that the president asked for Mel, he wrote a letter of recommendation to Mel. So technically, Mel took Patty's place. But so we'll see that tension a little later. But it was like, ooh, in where I can understand Patty in that, like, you sleeping with the boss and you get all these benefits because it's supposed to be my spot. But I think they still had to accept that, like, the program still had to choose who they wanted to accept. So it's based on application. But he also did her a letter recommendation. Later that night, she reads it and reflects, has a moment of reflection because she also smoking some weed because she couldn't get no drugs. So she said, I'm gonna just roll a one. And she did. And to each his own. And this is where prompts her to go and call Alex. Now let me tell you something. This conversation that her and Alex had, I'm sorry, but if I was his fiance, I'd be looking at him like, who are you talking to? Because it was so like, it was so much tension. It was so much flirting. Like, oh, I wish I remember what he said. Or like, he said something about like, you miss me or something. I was like, wait a second. What's going on? You're engaged. You sent me the invitation. I RSVP. What we do? What? But why you calling? I wish we do the time because if it's after 10, come on now, Mel. You ain't slick. You ain't slick. Yeah. You ain't slick. But that was interesting. So we know that there's still something there. And we need to figure out why. Why didn't it work? What happened? Because it really seems like everything's perfect. They're adults again. What happened to make them not work? So that's the end of episode 2. We're moving, y'all. We moving. It was a lot. But we get more of the story. And then we move into episode 3 where things continue to unfold, where about not only Alex and her relationship, but also Roy and her friendship. We start to get a little bit more information about that relationship as well, with little moments. So it starts off where we get an understand. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoa. We missed a major part. I'm sorry. Beep. Back it up. At the end of that night, that day, as they're riding home in the train, this is Roy and this is Melissa. Okay. Roy and Melissa have a conversation and they say, Roy really says, can we start being honest with each other? Which you don't say. You should be honest. But anyway, so she's like, yeah, let's be honest. Let's be honest about how we feel. So Mel again has a moment of her reflections on what this experience is like and where she is. And at the end, Roy goes, well, if we're talking in honesty, my dad recommended you for this position and it really hurt me that he sees the potential in you instead of me. So because you're my friend, I really don't want you to take this. I don't really want you to do this high flyer club or not club, management training. Mel said, she said, okay. Huh. So I saw this and I was like, excuse me, what? So, because we're adding, like, he's running out of chances with me, Roy. Because we're keeping count. You ditched me on my birthday to go be with somebody else. You ignore my call and I'm literally dying. Like, literally She's literally dying. And then 3, something positive is happening. You know your friend needs this positive thing to happen. And because of your relationship with your dad, you think that she should not take a good opportunity because of you? So another way of being selfish. And that's a friend. Interesting. And the fact that she said, yeah, I'd have been like, no, take it up with your therapist. I'm doing this management program. No, absolutely not. What does it have to do with anything? Like, okay, the fact that he sees something good in your friend and you don't see what's good in your friend is also telling. And so it does to let you know that whatever situation that him and his dad have isn't just one-sided. Sorry, in my opinion, there are some things that Roy does, like not take accountability or is actually really spoiled, that the dad wants him to realize and understand and actually be a productive adult, And I get it. Like, I understand it from his perspective, and the fact that, like, he was willing to give Mel an opportunity and see her potential, meaning that the dad can absolutely be supportive. So how many times did Roy burn the bridge? Like, yeah, we only get on one side, Roy. I'm sorry. I'm not Team Roy. He's just constantly showing me that he's very selfish. He's self-centered. Absolutely. Like, because why would you ask something? Your friend just got in an accident. Your friend don't have no, like, she don't have no money. She's your best friend. You know all of this. And you tell her, hey, pass out. I need you to pass on your blessing so that I can feel better about myself. Ciao. That is not a friend. What y'all think? Let me know in the comments. But to me, that is not a friend at all. But again, she was so nice and was like, okay. So anyway, now we can go to episode 3, where episode 3 is where we do get a recap of how her and Roy started their friendship. And so Mel, as we know from episode 1, loves Thai food. There was this one restaurant that she actually worked at and was actually Roy's waitress. Well, the boss, who was white, was very nasty and very rude and inappropriate towards his staff, including Mel, and was like, you talk too much, you're too happy, you just need to get these orders in. She was literally doing her job as a waitress, and he had a problem with it, and he's just being nasty to her. So she starts a conversation with Roy, and they kick it off, and the manager comes up like with an attitude and is like, sorry. She likes to run her mouth. He was just being nasty, but you were being nasty with the customer. So Roy was just like, you don't need to take this. Like, because he is a horrible person. He's a douchebag. You need to tell him off. You deserve better. And no one should be talking to you like that. And so it prompts Mel to stand up for herself. And so she ends up telling the manager F you and leaves and quits. Now, what it also shows you is it gives you more insight on the dynamic of their friendship and relationship, where um Roy does represent a person and a friend who has the potential to push you, but push you in their comfort level, right? And again, I'm not going to give too much because there's a whole episode that we can deep dive. I think it's episode 5 that we'll get into. But I mean, her quitting, girl, you got bills to pay, and you just met this man, and he's telling you, "Oh, girl, I can get you a job somewhere else." How do you know? You just did this outburst and you don't have no security, no money. You know your situation and you just let this random person tell you, quit, girl. You know you got your own light bill due tomorrow. Come on. Like, it was kind of reckless in that regard to responsibility, but good in that she stood up for herself and didn't and was pushed to actually fight for something, stand up and demand respect from someone. So it was like it was positive in that way, but also not in the very irresponsible way, which again does give a little bit of insight of how their a relationship dynamic. So um we start with that. And oh, no, it's in this episode. So we will deep dive their relationship a lot more. But so as that flashback has happened, we flash forward to the hospital calling her to tell her bill for the hospital and she can't afford it. It's extremely expensive because our healthcare sucks, as we know. So she tries to commit fraud again and try to pay on that older lady's card. Girl, you really trying to go to jail? Like you okay? But anyway, she of course declines because I'm sure by now the family might be looking into like something. I don't know, like because you really are assuming she has no one, but somebody knew she had a dog. Anyway, she tries to use a card, it doesn't work. So then she does another fraud decision and takes her brother's social security card as a co-signer to her being on a payment plan. And I believe it was going to take her 47 years to pay off her debts, which is insane. Like that's crazy. That's wild. But that is literally our healthcare system and our financial system. Like can't win for losing. Or was it win for losing? I don't know. Anyway, but she stuck like Chuck. So, she uses his social security to pay without permission, and we're like, "Okay, Mel, where's this going? Cuz you going to get it like this is going to catch up to you. This is fraud." So, I'm very curious and interested to see what's going to happen with that. So then what we get is we get a moment of she's starting her management company or management, not company, but management class. And just to backtrack a little bit, because I'm kind of out of order here. As we learned in episode 1, she meets a bartender. That bartender ends up becoming a good friend of hers. And then also her neighbor who found her not breathing. Her neighbor was next door, doing the whoop de woo with her boyfriend and heard the bang, ran to her apartment, and was the one that called the police. So, what we find out is the bartender was really sincere and invites her to hang out. So her and her neighbor are hanging out with the bartender. They're talking it up. They're like, "Mel, oh my god, this is an amazing opportunity. Like this is great. I'm glad this is going to work out for you." And she's like, "Yeah, but Roy told me not to." And they were like, "Why would he tell you not to do that?" Which yeah, she was like, "Yeah, because his thing with his father," and it was like, "That's his problem, girl. You need this. And you need things to be better for you. What just because he got a bad relationship with his dad don't mean that you should be poor and like not grow and be better." So they convince her to go for it. And she's like, "But I don't have anything to wear." So this is where her roommate, not her roommate, I'm sorry, her neighbors like, "Girl, I got you. We're not gonna have any excuses. You're going to do this." And that's what friends should be, right? Um we shouldn't be trying to hold people back because of our own issues and insecurities. Like we should be pushing you forward to want to excel and do better. So I really love this moment of like highlighting the contrast between Roy, who she considers her best friend and in a lot of ways has been there for her, but what real true friendship should look like through the thick of it when things are good and when things are bad, right? So they talked her into doing that. Well, they wanted to make a thing of it, and Roy called her, interrupted her, and was like, "Hey, my man, like the man that I thought was just a one night stand actually really wants to be in a relationship with me. And I'm excited. This is good for me because you know how I operate, how I move. Because Roy, he don't have commitment. Like he's not really into commitment. But this guy seems different. So he was like, I need you to come over. I need you to help me. So she's like, but I really don't want to do that. Because now there's a moment for me to do better. And you're asking me again to do something for you. Clock it, okay? So the friends was like, "Girl, do you want to go? If you don't want to go, let's do, excuse me, what we want to do." So she's like, "All right." She did what she wanted to do, got her outfits cute, whatever, got it together. Um, she finally gets home. And this is where things get interesting. And this is why I love sitcoms or comedies that aren't just like you need the funny, you need the like it needs to be funny. Like action of comedy, we love a good comedy that has it, but the best part of of a comedy show is the drama because you need like the show needs to have substance so that these comic relief moments can like have impact. Because if you have a serious moment, like if it's too silly, okay, it's maybe not that funny. But if we actually have some drama or something going on, it helps carry the storyline. So this is what I loved about this show. And this scene right here, I feel like anybody could relate to because everyone I feel like has been to a point where you really have to question your friendships and your relationships, like with people. You have to make tough decisions and you feel torn about it because these people to a certain extent were good to you, but it's not enough, like, and so here we get this situation where Roy comes up and he's like, hey girl, like I need help, like what, you good, like come on, let's get to it. And so she was like, well, I need to be honest with you, I'm gonna take the management program, it's good for me, I need it. Mind you, earlier this day she asked Roy to co-sign. He said no, he can't, he's trying to be financially responsible, which, curious your thoughts. Do you feel like Roy should have been her co-signer? I really want to know what you guys think about that. Personally, I would say no. Like two. Cuz for me and and it's me. Like I don't feel like I would never ask my friends to financially do something like that. Like I have a family, say like I I personally don't feel comfortable doing something like that, but I can understand in this situation where, again, this is your best friend, you know her, you know what just happened, you have been neglecting her. Why not help her? Um, and I do get it. Like, if it comes down to like my friend needs something, or if we need something, then yes, I do think you should be there for your friends. But will I say that he was wrong to say no? Not necessarily. Um, but I think it was just one of those things that just built up for her with how just selfish and self-centered he was really being in their friendship, because it was like, well, dang, you wouldn't help me, but then I'm trying to do something to help myself and you get mad. I find a solution and you're mad about it because your daddy issues. How is that fair? So I totally get it. I get the principle, and she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right. And she also, doubles down on like, listen, I almost died. And that scared me. And so that's making me want to change and be better and do things differently because, you know, Roy is kind of like, what's going on here? Like, you really are becoming more confident, making your own decisions. And again, it goes back to that initial scene that we talked about where, you know, he liked having somebody around that he could control. He could get like his own way out of it. And like if you've never ever had those type of friendships where one is more dominant than the other and they like to kind of have that person as a like a posse necessarily than a real true for equal friendship. That's where Roy really was, and how he treated Mel. It was like a, oh, she's just a friend that I can have to stroke my ego because I know she'll always be there. And so he was getting upset that she was starting to form her own relationships, her own connections, make her own decisions, and actually stand up and say, no, I'm going to do this because this benefits me. And he didn't like it. And so then we just start getting, they start going there because he pretty much is like, get over it. How do you tell somebody who almost dies to get over it? And like, mind you, this just happened. Like, I think the timeline is like not even 2 weeks. Crazy. So you don't even care. So what it also shows is that you didn't care that you skipped out on her birthday either. You really just don't care. Because why not have empathy? Because the fact of the matter is, and Mel names it and was like, this wouldn't probably happen if you was with me like you planned to be and celebrate my birthday with me and be there for me as a friend. And he was like, no, Mel. And he pretty much was like, I'm not your boyfriend. Oop. So that pretty much does it for Mel. And I'm with you because what? Like, this girl, y'all are supposed to be best friends. And you really have the nerve to say that? Like, she wants to spend time with you. She wants to have you there to support her. That don't equate to a boyfriend. You're her friend. You're supposed to be there. It's not always supposed to be about you. So that lets you know right there how Roy moves and how he sees her friendship, you know? And what I loved about this scene was it does show the complexity of their relationship and their friendship because again, it does seem like there are positive things about Roy. And um because he has been there and he does express that where he says like it's exhausting to be your only friend and it's a lot of pressure, which I can identify and understand with sometimes. Like sometimes because some people are isolating themselves and they only have you as an outlet, that can be a lot of pressure and it can be exhausting because they just dump everything or they're only available to you and you feel like you're not able to be available to other people and go out and live your life. Like, so I can understand and identify that feeling, but it's like, Roy, you benefit from it because you do things to keep the attention on you. You do things to have that person there to pretty much hype you up. Like you like this hype man. You like that relationship. You benefit from it. But when it's required for you to actually show up in the same way, you don't want to. Now it's inconvenient. Now it's too much. So I loved it because it wasn't just like, oh, somebody explicitly did something wrong, but no, like this was deep rooted stuff, root resentment, and it wasn't a horrible friendship, but it wasn't a good one. And so I think to really explore that and show that dynamic I thought was beautiful, beautifully done, amazing. um so that pretty much is was where they um honestly have a pause on their friendship, and we'll see how they hopefully um come up with a solution or not. I don't know if they should, but it definitely and again, like I think that doesn't mean there's grounds to end friendships because when friendships you got to fight for relationships, right? But we'll see if it is worth fighting for. So I believe we get the scene where um she's now with her new friends, and I could be jumping. I'm jumping. I think I'm jumping. I don't know. I don't remember which episode it was, but we'll say it anyway. We get a scene with her friends where no, I'm jumping. This is in episode 4. So, but that pretty much ends episode 3. So we've a lot has happened in these first 3 episodes, and I love it because some of these TV formats love to just hit us with these cliffhangers, major cliffhangers where we barely get any story out of it. And this feels like old school television where we're actually like leaving each episode with a complete story. I absolutely love it. And yeah, so we get that. So the last episode we're going to recap is for the tonight is episode 4, where pretty much we pick back up where Mel and Roy are still no longer speaking. And we get so they're kind of avoiding each other, and people are kind of like, what's going on? They don't really want to talk about it. Um we we do get in this moment, and I forgot to mention it, where in episode 3 she does talk to this coworker that we mentioned earlier, who was over the different types of items that people get confiscated at the airport. Forgot his name. I really forgot his name. I do not remember it. He was a little, he was a little smooth. But this is where we get all this information and more backstory on Mel. And I appreciated it. I liked it because it fills us in a way that makes sense. Um, because it really was leadership training. Like the manager program is to build them up to being leaders. So the questions made sense, but he was being a little nosy. He was being a little Nancy Drew. I ain't gonna hold you. He was. He was absolutely being a little Nancy Drew. I ain't really appreciate that. It was a little nosy. Um, it was a lot nosy. So I believe we also get more wow, because these episodes have so much going on that I forget. We also get some insight on the relationship of Alex and Mel and what happened there. So we end up really finding out that she broke it off because honestly, self-sabotage. And it was really sad to see, and we'll learn more with her family why she did that, but because it was so good to be true and he was just authentically in love with her, it scared her and she broke it off. She was like, no, this is just nothing but a fling. Like she couldn't even get the words out. It was unbelievable. Like she didn't believe it, but because of fear had just captivated her so much, she shut down a pretty good thing. Like, girl, that's a good man, Savannah. Are you nuts? Please. But she shut it down. So that's why they're no longer together. So now it's kind of like, oh, it's a little bit different. Cause honest, and it explains why they moved the way that they moved, very like dancing, but it's very much giving that if she say the word, it's a wrap. Homegirl. It's the wrap. That's what it's giving. He's just waiting for her to say the word. So we find that out, which was very interesting and definitely brings a different perspective on the relationship. Because I was kind of looking side eye, like, okay, girl, you got a fiance, chill out. But to find out that she broke it off is like, oh, this is why he's lurking. This is why he's forcing himself to move on, and she's forcing herself to move on, but she really hasn't moved on. But it might be one of those things you may have to just, oh well, the one that got away, honestly, because girl, he's engaged. So, now with episode 4, Told you it's a lot. We finally get to episode 4, and essentially what happens is the airport gets shut down because there's a child missing. While this is happening, Mel, she's the person who drives people in a go-kart that need extra assistance to get to their gate. So she ends up seeing this woman, which the woman, if y'all have watched Kim's Convenience before, the actress was on that show. And girl just spilling her whole business. Like, yeah, my ex, I think I'm still in love with him, and but he got this new girlfriend, but I'm gonna go on the trip. Like, she just spilling it all. Ain't nobody asked you that. Can we ride in silence? This is what I would have been said. Like, okay, you're telling too much, but she tells the girl everything. Well, come to find out, the girl is friends with Alex's fiance, who is also there because they're going on a bridesmaid trip. Surprise, surprise. They find that out and it's extremely awkward. But what you can also see, and tell is how threatened Alice's girlfriend is about Mel, which I thought was fun. I thought that was interesting. Like, oh, you feel some type of way. Like, because if it's your man, anyway. But she was uncomfortable. And she was like very passive aggressively trying to mark her territory, which was like wild to see. Like, it was wild, actually. So, of course, just their luck, the airport shuts down because the little girl's missing. So now I got to see you. And the fiance forgets that she needed to print. I don't even know what she was supposed to be printing, which I would tell her go to the front desk. But anyway, I guess because he works here, um, they go to her. They want to go to her office to go and print. I think it was a boarding pass or something. Which again they could print it there, but whatever. To go print. Oh no, it was her scavenger hunt for sheet because they were going to do a scavenger hunt on her bridesmaid trip. So Alex was going to take her, but she's like, no, Mel, you can take me. I know you have to do some big boy stuff. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the vibe it gave. It was like, okay. Because she wanted to size up Mel. She wanted to size him. She wanted to size her up because she just found out that like he invited an ex, which would y'all invite an ex to your wedding? Because that is some sugar honey iced tea. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, like that is like an ex. Why? No, I do think there are exceptions. Like, there can be exceptions to that rule, right? There can be. But most of it is not. So that is interesting. That is extremely interesting. So I kind of understand. Like, you be kind of side eyeing, but to go to the links that the fiance did in this episode was a little wild. So they ride together, they go in his office, and she's just making digs about, like, oh, yeah, he's great. Do you know that he does that? Like, you trying to bond on his little things that he like to do? Like, it was not anything bad, but like behavior. I'm like, that's weird. Why would you do that? Like, you were looking for her to be a villain, essentially, is what the fiance was trying to do. And Mel, I will say, did a good job of really not taking the bait, but then knowing when to throw it back at her. I was like, yeah, girl, get her. Yeah. Because it was weird. Like, that's your man. You're getting married to him in Hawaii. What are we doing? So they get to the office and girl decides she wants it while Mel's trying to fix the printer quickly because the girl's just, again, very passive aggressively marking her territory. She goes and like decides she's gonna take copies of her chest and breasts. I was like, really? 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 I was like that. Yeah. Like, well, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Like, I'd just be like, it's not that serious. I mean, I guess it can be that serious, but I just won't come. Like, it's not. Listen, because if he's yours and you're getting married to him, We don't gotta do all this. I don't have to come. But also, you can't keep a man that don't want to be kept. It was just too much. It was like, okay, why you're really threatened by this girl. So Melissa, I think again does a really good like job of like, well, whatever, because the fiance drops that, oh well, he might go to the Atlanta airport. He's transferring. Did you know about that? Which why would you transfer to the Atlanta airport? That's crazy. One, like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But two, like, okay, I still got an invitation to your wedding. Like, I have his number. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of like, your point is, it was too much. She did entirely too much. She was extremely bothered by Melissa. And it's like, girl. Anyway, so Melissa is just like, you know what? Cheers to y'all. And because with her in her class, she does bond with the guy. I can't remember his name. I can't. No, I'm not gonna even guess. But she's texting him at the same time, and she's like, he asked her out on a date earlier that day. She was like, you know what? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna go on the date. Cause now this situation is pushing me that I need to just get over them, like him, because she's clearly here to tell me to back off. So she goes on her date, she meets him. He sets up a cute little date, and she decides, you know what, I'm gonna do something I've never done before, and they have a moment, literally a moment, and do and the airport, and it was hilarious. Like, it was funny. It was definitely funny. And out of that conversation, he slips up and says, "Yeah, like we were gonna go here." I don't remember what it was in reference to, but she's like, "We? So you're married?" Which made it even wild. Because when I tell you, this man was like, he was like, I want you bad in an interview in episode 3, just for you to be married. Like, oh my god, your wife has every right to want to like you. Like, you would not have known. Like, you would have not known the way that he was like coming from Mel. And so she's like, well, why would you choose me? So, in that moment, it really does discourage Mel, because it's like, one, I'm trying to get my life together, and here goes life giving me another situation. Um, I can't catch a break. And then do you see my desperation? Do you see my struggle? Like, why would you pick me and make a fool out of me? And I'm just trying to do better with my life. So I get it. Like, I think anybody would spiral, especially for that moment of, you cannot call it passion. You just can't. Okay. Like, you can't. Um, so she's feeling discouraged, but while she's leaving, she finds a little girl, and it was really really beautiful for her to attempt to use history and talk about Betsy Coleman and being brave, because the little girl was scared of going to see her dad and not like it. And so, Mel was just like, well, you might not like it, but you still want to take the risk. You still want to do, see and at least try and say you can try and not live in fear. Essentially, to also talking to herself, like her inner child, right? I do think that it was absolutely representing that. And so the little girl goes back to reunite with her parents and everything. And so the airport is now open. Um, she then goes back down to her crew out where the airplanes are, And she's like, "Why is this so hard? Like I'm trying and I'm over it." And he gives a really great speech about the Roomba, how ooh, I said, "They can preach, okay?" And where he was pretty much like, your Roomba, you buy it and you think it's not working because it just keeps hitting the wall. It's just hitting the wall, hitting the wall. But what he said, but then he goes, but what you find out is after a while it stops. And what it is then why is because it's figuring out the room, and those walls are teaching you and teaching the Roomba more research about the wall and how to navigate it and how to learn the room and learn the space. And that was, and I said, y'all did y'all good riding with that. Essentially saying that, like, everything isn't gonna go perfect, but we let those moments be teach us on how to deal with these walls that we might face. Like, so now you're prepared moving in the future because this bad situation happened. So I was like, all right, sir, I see you, Terrence. He got a little, he got a little wisdom. I like it. Mm. So I do love that they're like giving her multiple prospects and no one's necessarily like better than the other. Cause now you're looking like, well, dang, should she be checking for Alex? Cause Terrence ain't that bad. Like Terrence always be there. And Terrence is a good friend of hers. What we find out is that he's dating one of the clerk at the desk, and she wants to introduce him for Thanksgiving. Terrence is acting a little off though. He's like, okay, because she wants to tell HR because she's also in the program, and they talked about HR and disclosing relationships. So she wants to tell HR about her and Terrence's relationship, the clerk. And he's like kind of hesitant, but he's like, okay, sure. I immediately saw that and I said, he don't like her. He don't like her. She is forcing this relationship because she's like, yeah, you come to my house. He's like, you want me to? The hesitation. No. Somebody is inviting you to their house and you're like, are you sure? Mm-mm. Girl, he didn't want you. And he don't want you. He don't. It's not there. It's forced. Well, in a conversation that they have, he says that he doesn't like to share his food. He's really picky about that because of his experience with having to share food and not. He's like, I don't like it. I like to have my own food because I always miss out if I um with how I grew up. I didn't get my own stuff. It was always gone. So I really don't play about that. And so she was like, well, pretty much like, well, pretty much saying, I can't quite remember what she said, but well, I'm your girl, so why, you should it should be okay. You should be okay with that, whatever. So he has upon their breakdown, their lockdown, he has a conversation with Deshaun and another clerk in the gift shop. What's her name? Because she my girl. What's her name? Let me get her name real quick. Kayla? Kaya? Kaya. He has a conversation with them and they're pretty much like, when you down for somebody, a lot of the things that you say you won't do, you end up doing, which is very true. Like it's true. And even because when you like them, like little petty stuff like that don't matter because you just want to be with that person. And that's what you think about. So he's like, yeah, 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 okay, okay. So they're like, you probably don't like this girl, but I'm waiting on you to be honest about it. So we now fast forward to where he has this conversation with Mel. And as that conversation finishes, Mel's like, oh, chips. And she puts her hands in his bag. Girl, he didn't flinch. That man didn't flinch. So we refer back to that conversation. When you like somebody, stuff you say you wouldn't do, you end up doing it. What happened? You let her eat a couple of your chips because she went back for seconds. You like her bad. You like her bad. Yeah. Mm. So this just got interesting. Cause I'm team both, honestly. This just got interesting. So that was episode 4. I think at the end of episode 4, we do find out because she, after this experience, she was like, you know what, Terrence was right. hmm I'm gonna just get out there. So she gets with her girls, and they're like, let's go on a dating app. Let's try it. Her friend took this beautiful photo of her, and that's what I'm talking about. You got a friend that sees the best in you, captures the best in you, pushing you to grow in just a matter of weeks. Yes. You post her picture, they're swiping and keying. Guess who she see? Her brother. Yeah, the one who's married. We see him. Oh my lord. I said, "Oh, we in something now. Oh, we into something." So, that's where episode 4 leaves off with an actual minor cliffhanger, and so we're going to definitely see what happens with that. Yeah, this show has a lot of plots and really has a potential to get a couple seasons out of it. So that's why you should tune in and watch it, please. Okay? Let's watch it. So that's all I have for you. If you stayed and watched, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back with episodes 4 through 6 or 7. We'll see. Because I believe there's only, how many episodes do we have? 8 episodes. So yeah, we'll do probably the rest of them, or we'll break it up with 2 episodes because there is a lot to unpack. So we'll be back with more recaps. Let me know your thoughts on the show. How do you feel? And share it with multiple friends and family. We need to get her a season 2. We need to. All episodes are out on Hulu, so definitely catch up if you haven't caught up and get into it. Again, please like and subscribe to the Lions Den podcast. We will be coming out with new episodes very soon, so look out for that. Okay, and we'll be back with more recaps for you. And that is all. Thank you guys for joining me tonight, and we'll see you next time.